Hello. Hi, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting, but now we're here, and I'd like to welcome you to this exclusive live session hosted by Goldcrest Real Estate. We are thrilled to have you join us as we explore why Portugal has emerged as a premier destination for business executives, investors, and entrepreneurs seeking to optimize taxation, expand their European footprint, and gain access to an elite business network. Joining us today is Patricia Casaburi. She is the CEO of Global Citizen Solutions, a firm specializing in visa and relocation services. Patricia, hi. Tell us what will be the topics you will be focusing on today.
Oh, hello, Gisani. So we'll be diving into the key advantages of setting up in Portugal, from the government incentives to visa opportunities.
Great, thank you. And now I'd like to introduce you to Gonçalo Peixoto. He is the head of real estate at Goldcrest. Gonçalo, hi. Give us a short and sweet overview of the key points you will be talking to us about today.
Sure. Hello, Jizan. Tonight we are exploring the country's thriving tech hub scene and how it translates into real estate driving opportunities.
Thank you very much. So now, as you see, whether you are looking, I'm speaking to you, our viewer, looking to diversify your assets or establish a foothold in Europe or elevate your business on an international scale, I promise you this session is tailored just for you. Now let's get started. I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Patricia. Patricia and her team have helped countless individuals and businesses transition to Portugal seamlessly. And today, she's here to shed a light on the specifics of visa options, government incentives, and key considerations for businesses and entrepreneurs interested in making the move. So, Patricia, I have a question for you here to kickstart our conversation. Can you walk us through the most attractive visa and residency options available for investors and business owners looking to establish themselves in Portugal?
Yeah, absolutely, Gisani. Well, there's so much going on. Portugal offers several very compelling paths for international entrepreneurs and investors. The one that's super popular is the startup visa, and is particularly attractive for innovation. So innovative, typically tech companies. This program is designed for those who want to develop technology or tech-based business involving a little bit of R&D, and they can access Portugal's extensive incubator network, mentorship, and many funding opportunities, which is the main thing. Entrepreneurs can usually obtain residency by either establishing or investing in a company that by default will be creating jobs and contributing to the economy. Another really important and significant part of the ecosystem is the non-habitual tax program. It's called the NHR, and we have a remastered, which we're calling 2.0. It was updated at the beginning of this year. So this program effectively benefits primarily individuals, getting a 20% tax rate on the Portuguese sourced income. So if you open a company here, you would get 20%, but also get to zero tax on most of your foreign incomes, with the exception of pensions for a period of 10 years. It's particularly beneficial for executives or individuals involved in R&D, academics, tech professionals, and a lot of other activities that are on the list.
Okay, sorry. Just unmuting myself. Okay, Patricia, this is really good, and I think on the topic of tax, since you mentioned NHR, I'd like us to give us an overview. I'd like you to please give us an overview of the fiscal landscape in Portugal for business entrepreneurs and startups.
Okay, again, lots going on that space. Portugal has created a very business-friendly fiscal environment that goes beyond the NHR that, like I mentioned, benefits primarily individuals. So startups can benefit from several initiatives which will directly reduce corporate tax rates. So you have things like R&D tax credits, which will kind of chop your corporate tax bill up to 82.5%. You have patent regimes, again, on intellectual property, they're also cut by 50%. There are a number of programs as well that if you set up office in the kind of low density areas, again, you have a number of benefits and they tend to pile up. So the country overall offers a competitive corporate tax rate in any case, which is 21%, below many other European countries. But I also, like on top of that, like if you're setting up a new company, there are these programs like CFIDI, which again, I mentioned the R&D. There's a number also, Portugal has a number of tax treaties with over 70 countries, which help prevent double taxations and makes things all a little bit more streamlined, especially for the kind of early stage companies. There are also several grants and co-investment options through the Portugal 2030 program. And you also would get access to a lot of EU-backed initiatives that can provide like a lot of non-dilutive funding, which kind of helps fuel growth. So very, very, very complex, different incentives for different industries. So it's definitely looking into Portugal if you're considering setting up here in Europe.
Thanks, Patricia. This is all really good news on the fiscal front for entrepreneurs and startup owners. And but I would like to talk about the not so positive side of things. So let's tackle what are the biggest challenges that businesses face when relocating to Portugal.
That's a good question, Gisani. Look, while Portugal offers, like I mentioned, a lot of opportunities, there are certainly challenges. I would say, if I had to single out one, that the employment and labor laws can be very protective in comparison to some jurisdictions, especially if you're coming from North America or other countries that have a more liberal approach to labor laws. With specific requirements around contracts, working hours, termination procedures. So it's really important to get the lay of the land, if you want, before committing. However, there are also excellent solutions available out there. So there are companies that utilize flexible employment platforms, such as Deal, Bridgin, which is a local one, Oyster, just to name a few, which what they do, they simplify international hiring and payroll compliance. And this allows kind of business to scale their teams in Portugal or start a business, remaining compliant with local regulations without weighing too much on them. Another aspect, which I think, which you can see as a double side to it, is the Portuguese environmental regulations. They are increasingly stringent, aligned with EU, and some business initially might perceive that as a challenge. However, I don't know, I like to think that it's also an opportunity. So because the companies that align with the Portuguese commitment to sustainability, they often find themselves in a way better position for the future, and they become more attractive to consumers, investors, and even for attracting, talent. So I think you could definitely turn this into a competitive advantage. And also, sorry, I'm just going on a little bit, but there's a lot of, I get really passionate about that. There's a lot of support through organizations like ISAP, which is the Portuguese Trade and Investment Agency, YAPME, and other government agencies such as that would offer full guidance through the entire setup process and making the challenges more manageable and accessible for most.
Thanks, Patricia. Yes, I like that you took a positive spin on the environmental compliance. So yeah, this is great. And thank you very much for this overview. I'd like to ask you one more thing. And what is your take on Portugal's future as a global business hub?
I'm super optimistic from everything that we have been seeing on the ground since 2017. Portugal kind of established a very strong foothold as a eco-friendly place for startups, even overtaking places like Berlin and London. We have seen remarkable events like the Web Summit, which kind of cemented Portugal on the map again for tech and innovation. We've had in the last few years since the Web Summit started in Lisbon, over 70,000 attendees from 160 countries, and it's definitely kind of positioned the country quite well at the center of a lot of the kind of tech conversations. Like I mentioned, like with YAPME and ISAP, the statistics that we get are very compelling. There is, last year alone, we had year-on-year increase in investment by 15%, which is particularly strong when you consider that a lot of this growth has happened in the technology and renewable energy sectors. Again, super exciting. Then we have the FinTech House that also does a really, really great job. They're based in Lisbon, sorry. And they became a very powerful kind of catalyst for innovation and financial technology. And they have a hub where they host over 30 companies, and they facilitate partnerships between the startups and in more established kind of financial institutions. And there's a particularly exciting in Portugal at the moment is all of this kind of incentives that bring direct benefits and economic impact to the local communities. So, and we are seeing as a result of that a lot of knowledge transfer, international talent attraction, so many people wanting to come and move here, and this is kind of has been helping to develop and keep fostering this very specialized kind of service ecosystem, and it just creates this virtual cycle that will continue to make Portugal more attractive as a business destination, as a place to live. Its strategic location, awesome quality of life, sunshine, sophisticated business infrastructure. So I think the future looks bright, and Portugal is super well positioned to continue this trend of a key European hub for new companies.
Wow, Patricia, thank you. I really like that you framed Portugal not only as an European hub, but a global hub for innovation and entrepreneurship, just to borrow your words, because it is what we are seeing right now with all the changes and all the positive changes that are happening and the governmental policies here. So thank you very much. That was Patricia Casabori. She will stay with us to answer the Q&A at the end. But right now, let's shift gears and talk about Portugal's thriving business ecosystem and the real estate opportunities available for entrepreneurs and investors. So I'd like to bring our next speaker, Gonçalo Peixoto. He has extensive experience in Portugal's property market, and he will be sharing some insights into the country's booming tech hubs, the innovation ecosystem, and the growing demand for co-living and co-working spaces. Gonçalo, I'd like to ask you, Portugal has been making waves as a major hub for startups and tech talents, to say the least. Can you tell us more about the ecosystem and how investors can leverage this opportunity?
Sure, that's a very interesting question, Gizan. So there are a lot of ways. With all these businesses moving to Portugal, we are seeing very interesting opportunities for growth being created in multiple sectors. We're seeing options like co-working spaces being created. For example, creating house to lodge some of the workers that are moving with these companies as well to Portugal. And also, it's important to note, and this, in my opinion, is what brings a lot of opportunities in. Uh, a lot of the startups and tech hubs are being created in less developed areas strategically to develop these areas with a bit more speed and a little less effort. And so that alone creates a lot of opportunities to revamp these locations and to invest in multiple sectors.
Okay, Gonçalo, I like that. But now I want you to give me the lowdown. What are the specific regions or cities in Portugal that we are seeing the highest growth in tech startups and innovation hubs?
Oh, it's interesting because we're a very small country, but there's still a lot of cities that we're seeing this demand and that are growing a lot in this sense. But I would say that the majority of the demand that we're seeing right now would be for Braga, but also the area of Covilhã and Fundão, where in the past we've seen some industry giants like the LVMH group investing into some factories. Also, it's also home to one of the biggest data centers in Europe. And obviously, we have scenes along the coast that it's attracting a lot of new investors to there and creating a lot of opportunities as well.
This is great, Gonçalo. Thank you. But you mentioned a few areas there, and I like our production team. So please type on the comment section Braga, Covilhã, and Fundão, and also scenes, so that our viewers are able to do the research about those regions that Gonçalo so kindly gave us the lowdown on what's going on regarding the ecosystem of tech hubs. So now, okay, another question, Gonçalo. As an investor, how do you raise capital and expertise in Portugal?
Well, very important, and a question that a lot of businesses are asking themselves right now. Um, there's many ways that we can look into this, whether you're in arts, culture, technology, engineering. There are multiple investment funds right now looking for healthy options to invest in. And there's also a very strong and very resilient traditional bank financing system that we have in place. A lot of investors are opting to it. And one trend that we're currently seeing right now is also going for community funds There are multiple options available depending on the business and the structure they're trying to set up. And that's surely one option that it's taking a lot of interest from investors and companies.
Thanks, Gonçalo. I'd like to welcome everyone who joined us after we started. We had an overview of the visa and the government incentives for companies and entrepreneurs that was covered by Patricia Casaburi. And right now we are covering the tech hub and the innovation ecosystem of Portugal with Gonçalo. And my last question before I open the Q&A, which I think is the element that hasn't been covered yet, and it's a very important one. I'd like to know, how do commercial real estate investors can best position themselves to capitalize on this growing trend? Are there any upcoming hotspots or developments that we should watch for?
Well, information is key here, right? Information and reliable partners that can help you. A lot of the investors that we're seeing right now, they're still not in Portugal. They're studying the options. They're still doing their due diligence. So that's where having a partner that it's on the ground on a daily basis and that understands the market dynamics, it's very important. And I believe that's where we come into play. It's to help those investors finding the right places for them to invest, understanding what are the upcoming hotspots, things like this, because being on the ground, being having access to all of this information, it allows us to understand these locations with a lot more advance. I can give you the example of Sines. We've seen in the past, Sines for the past 2 years, it's been a great option for investors. We've helped some investors investing in those locations, and we're seeing right now the results of that, and the investors are very happy, and it's having a very interesting boom in that area.
Thanks, Gonçalo. This is great. I said that was the last question, but it's actually not. I have another one for you. I think I just realized it is a very important one, because what you and Patricia presented to us now was a really good overview of what is available. But I think it's not really clear how an investor can work out what is best for them. How can GoldCrest help investors to find out what really works for their business?
Well, we are completely prepared to help any kind of investor achieve their goals in Portugal, whether it's through our partnership with Global Citizen Solutions in an immigration and counseling standpoint, whether it's helping secure financing for their project, counseling on the right location, the right type of asset to invest into. And not only that, explaining all the different locations, the different scenarios that can have. That's really the best of working with us is our track record speaks for itself. We've helped hundreds, actually more than 1,000 clients at this moment. And that's certainly our strong point, is to help the clients finding the different solutions, creating the plan and executing that plan through the end.
That's good. Thank you. Gonçalo, I have a lot of questions now. Not a lot, but some really interesting questions. And so before we wrap up, I think it's important to take a few questions from our audience, because they are very much in line with understanding what the government incentives are and the exciting real estate and business opportunities that Portugal has to offer. So I'm just going to read here. For someone, I think this one's for Patricia. For someone considering relocating their business to Portugal, what would be the ideal first step to take, and how early should they start planning?
I was muted. Well, I think the ideal first step is always to conduct an assessment of the Portuguese business environment, and if that's aligned with with your chosen industry, types of business models, long-term objectives. So we can always we like just having a start consultation or conversation, whatever you like to call it, to evaluate your position in terms of taxes, visa eligibility, business structure, locations, and then finding hopefully the optimal path forward. I think it's good to give yourself a good lead time. So planning in terms of your timelines, always we're working in a very conservative way, but I would like to say, depending on the structure, how many people you're moving, with 6 to 9 months window, it can be done quicker, especially depending on the company that you're doing. It's going to be a startup, and then you get a certification, things can get expedited. But again, I like to plan fairly conservatively, especially if you're like bringing employees. So yeah, it really depends. But the idea is assess, plan, and execute with a very clear timeline and a plan. It's not just also legal compliance. It's how you're going to be positioning yourself in the market. So it's the whole thing of moving, fitting into this kind of whole new world that you're starting, and the idea is that we kind of pave the way.
Thanks, Patricia. I like this framing with the three of us. Here's our production team playing around. Doing a very good job. I'm going to jump to the next question, and I think, Patricia, that one's for you again. What options have I got if I want to retire in Portugal and live off my savings? Not really the topic of our life now, but since we have Patricia here, her company specializes in visa relocation, I think she's best positioned to answer that question.
Sure. I mean, if you want to be in Portugal, most European countries, and we were in the different countries, they will have a relocation type visa for people living off their passive income. In Portugal is super popular at the moment. The threshold, it's not very high, so you need to show that you have sufficient means to provide for yourself in Portugal of passive income, which can be typically retirement income, 401ks, like Social Security, or even if you have, if you're a little bit younger and have some passive income from rental properties or what this passive in nature will be, things like that, like rental, then you should be able to apply from the country of your country of residence, showing that you comply with the requirements, which will be, it varies depending on the size of your family. The law says about 1 Portuguese minimum salary per month. We usually advise a little bit more, that you have a long view as where you're going to live. So there's a minimum requirements to prepare ahead of your initial interview. You would go for your local consulate for the interview, and about 2 months later, you hopefully, in our case, always, you would get your visa, which you would then have about 4 months, 120 days to come to Portugal and fully establish yourself before you go on to your residency appointment. So it is a fairly easy, provided that you have you reunite the requirements. So.
Thanks, Patricia. This is great. I have a question here finally for Gonçalo. I'm just wrapping all questions into one because it's very similar. And yes, so there you go. What makes Portugal's real estate landscape uniquely attractive to international investors right now?
Thank you, Gizan. Well, I think what's making it uniquely attractive right now, it's the track record. The track record is amazing. We've seen a very strong and resilient market for the past 7 to 8 years, and in a space where a lot of the countries are struggling to maintain their real estate prices. We continue to see a very strong market holding up the prices, not only holding, but having some capital growth along the way. I think this is what's making the market really attractive, for sure. Also, we see that the country in general, it's making a very strong effort to develop so many areas that were not so explored up until now. And because of that, all of these areas that weren't tapped into, it's a recipe for success to find good opportunities there.
Sure, thank you. I think we will have to wrap up now because we've already hit our mark of 30 minutes. However, before we wrap up, I had a message here from our production team. They want me to let you know that they will be posting the buying and selling in Portugal guide. It will be available in the comments and people can benefit from it. It's a guide that was put together by the Goldcrest team, and it's very thorough, very comprehensive, and it's a little gift here for you. So thank you for staying all the way to the end. So to our speakers, Patricia and Gonçalo, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. And to all of you watching, we appreciate your engagement. If you have any further questions or need personalized guidance, feel free to reach out to Goldcrest Real Estate. Sorry. And we're here to help. We're here to help you to make the most of Portugal's incredible opportunities. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon.